But moving on to The Flash, which I think episode 9 of the final season possibly is the best episode of the season. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, a perfect Flash episode now is not the same thing as a perfect Flash episode in season one.
Mm.
So for me, it was probably a 9 or an 8 because the first half of it was a little slow moving. But generally, that was by far the best episode of the season so far because it felt like a Flash episode. It wasn't wasting our time. And even though there was no main storyline to contend with, it paid tribute to the whole Arrowverse as a whole. Of course, the highlight was Oliver Queen coming back, but we also had Wally West back. We also had John Diggle back. We also had Captain Kramer and Chief Singh back. Like, they weren't advertised. That's where Hannah went when she disappeared into the liminal space. But it was just nice to see so much going on that felt like a Flash episode. Yes, there were some cringy moments at the start with the Captain Kramer and Cecile singing, "I tell you what I want, what I really, really want." No. But that aside, the minute Bloodwork walked into the Star Labs, there's an operator. He was the first season 6 main villain.
That's
Everyone
such a
loved
funny
him.
name for us.
It is. His real name is Ramsay, and he was a doctor who tried to cure his mother, but then ended up thinking that the only way to cure people is to give them eternal life by turning them into like zombies.
Oh, so he's like an evil phlebotomist. Bloodwork.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
What is a phlebotomist? What?
They're like the people when you go to the doctor, they take your blood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think I don't know. I didn't go to med school, but
and he has black blood, so when he puts it into people's bloodstream, he can turn them into what he calls blood brothers, and they're basically zombies who do whatever he wants. And he tried to do that with Barry right before the crisis in season 6, so he knows all about the crisis in the multiverse. So now that we've brought the multiverse back in this episode and finally acknowledged that after the crisis there was in fact a new multiverse that nobody ever talked about, it felt like Bloodwork was the right villain to bring back to do it. And long story short, he wanted to corrupt the entire multiverse by using Kid Flash, Wally West, who could activate or access it, and Oliver Queen, who is resting in peace as the Spectre in the great Lian Yu in the sky, has now been found out that someone's trying to affect the multiverse. So yeah, a lot was going on. That's how Oliver came back. But I just feel like it probably had too much to do in just 40 minutes because you're dealing with potential. Like, that could have been a great season storyline. But like, it was a little rushed. But generally, seeing Stephen Amell back, and we'll get into all of that. But yeah, easily my favorite episode of the season so far.
Wait, I have questions. So is it a different universe, Oliver Queen?
No, it's the same one.
That he's just alive again.
Yeah, he died at the end of Crisis because he became a being called the Spectre, and when the multiverse was destroyed, he had the power to rebirth a new multiverse.
Naturally.
Exactly. But technically now it's called the Arrowverse, get it? The Green Arrow birthed the multiverse. He's dead basically, but the deal he signed up to was that if he became the Spectre, he could live happily ever after with Felicity in the afterlife. And that's what he's been doing. But now that Ramsay is trying to corrupt the multiverse, the rule of the Spectre is that the Spectre can get involved if the multiverse is at stake. So Ramsay
took like a field trip to like
back to reality.
Yeah. I'm exactly. Okay,
gotcha. So Ramsay infected Kid Flash, and Kid Flash killed Barry. Like I feel like we kind of skipped over that. Barry died in this episode on his 30th birthday. Kid Flash killed the Flash, and then when Barry woke up, he was on the island that Oliver spent 5 years on, Lian Yu, and he saw Oliver there. And he was like, no, you're not real. But Oliver was like, no, it is me. And they had a lovely hug. And Oliver was like, Barry, let go, Barry, let go, Barry, let go, because Oliver's not a hugger. And then Oliver explained everything. There's a new multiverse, and Ramsay's going to corrupt it, and we need to stop it. So Barry was dealing with something, and I don't know what you think of that, Sabrina. Some of the like emotional baggage Barry's been dealing with.
I thought if it was actually what was happening in season 9, it would have been like amazing. It's not what was happening in season 9. The acting was superb, though. Mm-hmm. I will give that to them. So,
what's he going through?
So he was like, he just doesn't feel good enough. as the hero of Central City, which is not the plot we've been going through for season 9 at all. So what Oliver ends up doing it, because Oliver is basically Barry's mentor, is reassure him that he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing. He is being the light of his city. He is helping people. He's doing what he set out to do. And I just feel like we already have Leader Barry. We don't need that step back, that regression just didn't make sense. I would have felt better if something had happened in the previous episode, like maybe he failed in a way that he hasn't failed before, or he made the wrong decision and it affected someone terribly. But none of that happened in the previous episode. So like for Barry to be like, I just, maybe I shouldn't be alive, because we had suicidal ideations for like a hot second. And I was like, wait, Barry, we were not in that darkness at the time. Because the reason why Oliver can't initially bring Barry where he needs to bring him is because in order to like bring him back to reality, Barry has to want to go. But apparently there was a small part of Barry that didn't. And to be fair to the Flash as a series, Barry has always had survivor's guilt. That has been something that he has always had to deal with. And that man has always taken the opportunity to die. Like if there is an opportunity, he will throw himself toward it in the name of saving everybody else. And that is a part of his trauma and everything that he's been dealing with. And he definitely has PTSD. But that just was not where we were at the time. So I was like, he's been handling his survivor's guilt though. I wish...
That reminds me of Buffy. Ooh. When she sacrificed herself in season 5 and then they resurrected her and she's like, now why'd you all bring me back?
And I thought that was a great story in Buffy, but I feel like I completely agree with Sabrina. It just felt episodic, and I'm like, this would have been a good story for the final season of The Flash. Why are we doing it in one episode? Because here's an example of how out of the blue it felt. Because it was started with Barry's 30th birthday, one of the guests was, of course, John Diggle. And Diggle handed Barry, as a present, Diggle decided to gift Barry with Oliver's bow, the bow and arrow that he used during the crisis. And Barry didn't want that because Oliver was just another one of his many friends who had died. And Diggle was like, sorry to hear about Caitlin, that must have been rough. And Barry responded, yeah, having Keon helped. And I'm like, how does having a lookalike, a Danielle Panabaker lookalike, help the fact that your long-term friend died and not a single person on this team grieved her death? But sure, Barry has survivor's guilt because Caitlin died, even though not a single tear was shed over that woman. You see the disconnect here. There was no emotional aftermath, no gravity to that woman's death. And now 9 episodes into the season, they want us to believe that they've all been tearful and crying about it, but it's been okay because we have a lookalike on the team.
You know what would have been a nice hook if they had actually given them a grief arc for the 8 episodes, so that when you get to, like, Barry's been dreading his birthday because he'll be spending his birthday, a milestone birthday, without one of his best friends. And especially if she was younger than him by like a year or something. I don't know how old Caitlin is supposed to be. So then you have like, I'm turning 30 and she'll never get to turn 30.
Exactly.
But they didn't do that. In fact, his birthday comes out of nowhere because I don't believe they ever mentioned it in the previous episodes that his birthday was coming.
And the story that came up with her, we all said that we thought Barry was older than 30. Well, it turns out Barry is older than 30, but something he did with a mad scientist last season or whatever genetically modified his cells by giving him 3 extra years of life. So he's already turned 30, but biologically, because of that, he was given 3 extra years. So now is his 30th birthday, even though he's technically 31 or 32 or 33.
But who would elect to celebrate your 30th birthday again?
Exactly.
Apparently Iris. That's because she threw the surprise party. It makes no sense for her either. That she with her characterization, she'd be like, honey, you're 33. I'm gonna put a 33 on this wall and we're gonna have some nice cake. I don't think she'd indulge that you got 3 extra years, so we're gonna be 30 for again.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you
this is just like TV continuing to push the agenda that 30 is an enormous deal. Like we grew up with that narrative in every show. Like there's an episode of Friends where they all turn 30 and they're all feeling some kind of way about it. I'm like, stop with the 30 propaganda. Can someone just turn 33 and feel weird about it? Like, it's okay.
And it's really true. Like if that man lives to be 103, he's going to live to be 103. He's not going to be running around saying, I'm technically 100, but I've been on this earth for 103 years. So I don't understand why we needed to celebrate his 30th birthday. I mean, I get it. It was a nice plot. I suppose we should stop criticizing it since it's our favorite episode of the season right now. But
We contain multitudes. We can multitask.
Yes, we can do that. Okay, so but to be fair to it, I have one more slanderous thing. We couldn't let Wally get out of the series without one more round of trauma. Like it had to be like we had to bring what happened with his mom back in order to like that be the reason why blood work could take hold of him and take control of him. Reed, for some background, the Wests are messy. So Wally and Iris have the same mom, so they both have the same parents, but Joe had told Iris that her mom had died when really her mom had left. And I guess he'd kind of thrown her out. She was a drug addict. And when she left, at the time, she didn't know that she was pregnant with Wally. And she never told Joe that he had a son. And so Wally comes back grown. And that's when like you meet him. And so some of Wally's trauma is, I believe, wrapped in his mother's addiction, right, Michael? And then her death later on from cancer. Did she have cancer?
I can't remember. I could be wrong. I think it was supposed to be, was it McGregor syndrome, which is obviously comic book fans will know is the syndrome that Mr. Freeze's wife is diagnosed with. So I think that's what it's supposed to be. I'm pretty sure the internet went into meltdown when they heard that.
Okay. Well, yeah, so she passed away, and Wally has a lot of trauma around that. And the hook for the plot is that Barry poked a hole in Wally's bubble when he was talking about how he's trying to find enlightenment. And Barry was like, I thought the whole reason you went to Tibet was that you were trying to find a way to heal from your past. But what do you mean you left your past behind? And like Barry sprinkled some truth on there and Wally did not like it. So then we ended up being a minion for blood work because Wally felt unsupported by his family because he feels like Barry took his family from him because he's like, you get to hang out with my dad. And then what did he say about Iris? He said something about Iris.
Did she catch strays?
She did. Well, it's more so about Barry's relationship with Iris. But I was like, Barry's romantically involved with your sister. You can't do those things. That's not a thing that you would be doing.
Yeah, that's the issue when they try to say that Barry stole Wally's life. I'm like, but did he though? Yeah, I had issues with that. I feel like we needed to unpack trauma for Wally for years, but obviously he wasn't on the show, so we couldn't do that. But if you're going to have him be enlightened off screen, let him be enlightened off screen and don't bring him back and finally deal with the trauma in one 40-minute episode in which that man was probably on screens for 20 minutes. It felt a little rushed for me. They had him use an awful lot of buzzwords like enlightenment or whatever. So we'd be like, yes, Wally's clever, Wally's knowledgeable, Wally knows all of this. And then 5 minutes later, we can actually say, oh no, this is the Wally we've always knew. He had all this trauma underneath that. And then when Barry picked holes in it, he didn't like that. Yeah, I see what they were doing, but I feel like they didn't have the time to tell the story the way they wanted to tell it.
Sure. That is the case, but it's a great episode. I think it shines with Barry and Oliver. Stephen Amell and Grant Gustin's chemistry has always been amazing, and it was nice to see them paired up again. I wanted to give you space to have like a whole Arrow thing, Michael, because I saw your tweets, and I also know that like the episode was moving for you.
Thank you. I mean, when I heard the Arrow theme when Stephen Amell showed up, instant goosebumps. I forgot how much I missed that theme. And like the Arrowverse shows don't use their classic themes anymore. So hearing that was incredible. And then I believe when Wally and Barry were speeding through the city, we heard the original Flash theme as well, which we never hear anymore. So it was such a nostalgic episode, which was lovely. The reunion moment between Oliver and Diggle was so beautiful. I have to say, I like them together as besties, but their friendship was not one of the big parts of the show that I often connected with. But the fact that Diggle never got to say goodbye to Oliver when he sacrificed himself, and we're still telling that story 3 years later, felt so authentic. So seeing Diggle save Oliver from blood work and then the two of them share that hug, oh, that was so beautiful. And then at the end, this was my favorite part when Barry's questioning over whether he's a hero or not. He asked Oliver, because Oliver's all seeing, all powerful, and all knowledgeable. He said, am I doing enough? Oliver said to him, well, Are you watching over your city like a guardian angel? Are you saving people in a flash? Which is the exact dialogue Oliver said to Barry in the very first episode of The Flash when he gave him the name The Flash. Just seeing Stephen Amell get to say those lines again, and Barry finally understand that he is the hero he was always meant to be. And then when Oliver's eyes glowed green and said, that lightning bolt chose you, which is also the same dialogue he said, because Oliver just said that as a friend in season 1. Now he's saying it as the all-powerful Spectre that knows that as a fact, that the lightning bolt chose Barry. That reminded me of what this universe and what these shows are capable of. I got goosebumps. I did get a little teary at it because that was the most the Flash and the Arrowverse has felt like the Flash and the Arrowverse in such a long time. And it was a beautiful way to end the Oliver and Barry chapter of The Flash. And it was a beautiful payoff and a beautiful tribute to Arrow itself. And that is what made it my favorite episode of the season. I just, the whole thing I watched with goosebumps and a few tears here and there. Love this show, love this universe, and I couldn't have asked for anything better from their reunion.
It's applause worthy. They did what they needed to do. Like, definitely have qualms about it, but like they really did. Like, for season 9, it's a quality episode. And Reed, you might be getting better reviews from us, that like in terms of them not being bitter, as we move forward, because the trailer for the next episode looks like it's going to be giving us some content.
I mean, we only have 4 episodes left, so
the interval is over. We're finally going to start the final storyline.
I mean, I hope it's good for you guys for the last 4 weeks.
I mean, should they be starting the season 4 episodes before it ends? No, but I'll take it if we're gonna end on a high note.
Yeah. We keep those positive vibes. This was a good start. I hope it can continue.
Oh, I hope so too.